12 contracts restructured with the black and gold. It feels like every year you and I talk about how they're going to get up under the cap. They find a way. Mickey and Kai Harley, they have a method to their madness every year.
Yeah, look, and at this point, it's really no sense in either praising or criticizing their method of the salary cap. It is what they do. The Saints, Mickey Loomis and Kai Harley, they have decided that this is the best method to go about doing their business. You know, a lot of fans, critics, outside media, especially from other parts of the country, look at it and they say, well, this is a horrible way to do it. But here's the thing. The whole let's just pay the bill and let's just start over probably would be a little more realistic had the Saints had a really bad season. But over the last 15 years, really since 06, they've never had that. They've had some top-end success, but the truth is they've never had that 2-14 season, that 3-13 season, or 3-14 season now that you wouldn't necessarily have that would necessitate, pulling the plug, paying all the bills, and just doing a bunch of draft picks and basically conceding a season. It's never happened. So the Saints have always maintained relevancy, even when they weren't necessarily great teams. The worst they've done is 7-9, or last year 7-10. So this is just their approach given the circumstances that they're in. If you're a fan, would you rather have a team right now going into a season completely unknown, or a team that right now looks on paper like they can at least contend in the NFC? I think it's where the Saints are at. They feel like it's attainable, and they're approaching that with the moves that they've made. Now, look, the risk you run is by restructuring all these guys instead of releasing all these guys, or you run the risk of keeping some aging players on your roster a little longer than maybe they should be. But I think overall they've been able to avoid that being a problem. But it doesn't take a lot for that to become a problem. But I think right now they're in a good spot.
We did see some guys last year look like they were starting to show some age. Cam Jordan's one of the guys, not the player he used to be. But I would agree with you there. The worst they've been is 7-10, which in this division puts you right in the mix of everything. I already know the answer to this question. The biggest impact player that they made a move on this offseason got to be the quarterback,
It's got to be the quarterback. That was their biggest need. It was their biggest must going into the offseason. You needed a clear-cut upgrade over what you had a season ago at the game's most critical position. And all things being equal, had they not made another move throughout the offseason, everything would have stayed the same, and you just put Derek Carr into that situation, I think you're talking about a 2 or 3 game bump in terms of wins next season in that scenario. And I also think they got better around him as well. So I think the addition of Derek Carr, a top 12 to 14 quarterback, depending on how you view the hierarchy of quarterbacks in the NFL, in an NFC where it's hard to even name the top quarterback in the NFC right now, I think certainly means the Saints feel much more confident going into this season because I think they feel like they have stability at quarterback, and Derek Carr gives them that stability.
They got him at a bit of a bargain price, too.
Yeah.
I know it seems like a lot of money, $35 million. That's, when you look at the upper echelon guys, that's not bad at all. Biggest surprise in this offseason, and it's only a week old, basically.
I'm going to stay at that position. I'm going to say Jameis Winston because I did not think there was a chance. I did not think there was a chance Jameis Winston was going to return to the Saints after not just the signing of Derek Carr, but the courtship of Derek Carr from not just the front office and the head coach,
players,
but a lot of the locker room. A lot of the locker room basically, went all in on the Derek Carr signing. But Jameis Winston, look, there are a lot of reasons for why he made the move, and I think he sent out that statement, and he mentioned health quite a bit, and I think the health goes hand in hand with the market for his services, combined with some inconsistent play throughout his career. So he felt like it was in his best, interest to come back for another season. It really goes to show you just how much he liked the locker room, how much he liked the city, and how much the Saints value him as a backup. And they could have just turned to Andy Dalton. Instead, they gave Jameis Winston the chance. It couldn't hurt to ask. And lo and behold, he took the offer, and the Saints gained cap space. And look, you can say what you want about Jameis in terms of, he's been a little up and down as a starter, but the quarterback room as a whole, with Carr and Winston, and with all the starts Winston has had, that makes it a really good quarterback room in the NFC.
You're right about that. And, of course, I thought you might say Michael Thomas is a big surprise. You and I talked about this over the course of the last year. It didn't seem like he was going to be back here again.
Right.
And all of a sudden they find a way. He's excited about the Carr situation, too.
Well, I would have never thought Michael Thomas was going to be back until I heard Derek Carr speak at his press conference a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
I mean, after Derek Carr's basically love for Michael Thomas, and B, Michael Thomas's really hard recruitment of Derek Carr to New Orleans, there's no way the Saints could have said goodbye to him. So if they would have made the numbers work, certainly I think, and they were able to do so, those two are going to come and play at least in 2023 for the New Orleans Saints. Now, Michael Thomas has to get healthy. I think that's I think on the surface, and we know what Michael Thomas can do, and that's great, and you can visualize the pairing of being great things, but Michael Thomas has to figure out a way to stay healthy in 2020.
You're right. So Saints lost 6 players to other teams, many of those guys going within the division. Biggest loss for you?
I'm going to go Caden Ellis. I think that's a guy in another year the Saints would have likely been able to bring back. I do think he's a guy that has he provided great depth in that linebacker room. Really played well in his first opportunity to start games last season in place of Pete Werner. Didn't miss a beat. Second on the team in sacks, and also was a valuable special teams guy. But Atlanta gave him starter money, and he was not going to be a starter here next year. So the Saints were probably going to give him a backup style contract with the opportunity to eventually be a starter. Look, he was going to a defensive coordinator that he knows quite well, and Ryan Nielsen. He stays in the division. That's tough, but nonetheless, I do think Caden Ellis is going to be a tough guy to replace. But there wasn't really that one free agent, Juan, where you said, Saints got to get that guy back. I think there was pretty realistic tone with the guys that were up for free agency.
A lot of guys that left got big paydays elsewhere, especially within the division. Real quickly, at the end of the day, all we want to know, has this team gotten better? That's what the goal of offseason is. Have they gotten better with the moves? It seems like they have.
Well, let's just go through it. I mean, quarterback, better. Running back, where they needed to get better. I believe they got better with the addition of Jamal Williams. Defensive tackle, at the very least, is a wash because you lost a couple of guys, obviously. You bring 2 guys in. But that defensive tackle room did not do much last year. They were very low in terms of production. Now, you're a little weaker at linebacker. I'm a little concerned there. I think maybe you see a veteran, kind of third-wave free agent signing and possibly a draft pick in that linebacker room because, as I mentioned before, not just to play defense, but also special teams as well. But I think overall, especially when you look at the landscape of the NFC, and particularly the NFC South, the moves they made and the guys they lost, I think this team, it's a net positive. I think they did get better.
Okay, we'll leave it there talking Saints with Sean Fazende. Sean, thank you very much.
Thank you.